how can we provide feedback more effectively for students? Let's look at some overall evidence-based recommendations for what we can say about feedback. The one thing we want to do is we want feedback to be specific. It has to be directly related to the task at hand or the performance issue at hand. So we really want to make sure that it is specific and not vague. It needs to be timely. We can't be waiting weeks after and then expect our feedback to have a good impact on performance. We should address advancement toward a goal because we need to remind students what they're aiming for, and we should always address our feedback directed toward achieving that goal. We also need to present that feedback carefully, keep it task-oriented and not ego-involving. So as soon as you put a grade on a paper, students shut down. So it's much better to give feedback prior to assigning grades so that they have a chance to think about it and they will be attentive to that feedback. And it needs to involve the learner if at all possible. If the learner can find their own way to the solution to their deficit in performance or find a way to perform better, it's going to be much more effective than if we simply stand there and show them step by step how to do something. There was a really wonderful entire issue of educational leadership that asked many of the people that have done most of the research in the field of feedback to write an article. This is a lovely little 7 things to remember about feedback that are based on what all of those collective experts had to say about feedback in this issue. First of all, feedback is information. It's not advice, praise, or evaluation. We want to create a safe place for students to make mistakes. There's got to be nothing wrong with making a mistake. The feedback from students may be more critical than the feedback given. Let's absorb things a little bit ourselves so that we understand how they are making mistakes and how they are misunderstanding the task at hand so that we can figure out what is the appropriate feedback to give to them. Once you grade or evaluate, students stop listening. There was a lovely study where they looked basically at students, and as soon as the students saw the grades on their paper, they didn't read another comment on the paper. Feedback must occur while students are still learning. So we want to make sure that we're doing it early enough and often enough before the culmination of a semester or before the culmination of a course. Beware of peer feedback, which is frequent and often wrong. Finally, without a goal or learning target, feedback is just telling students what to do. If you don't know where you're going, how are you going to be able to get there? We've got a few additional resources here. One is an amazing book, Visible Learning and the Science of How We Learn, is an excellent treatise that basically summarizes all this research that we've covered here. The Educational Leadership volume issue that's a special issue devoted to feedback is an excellent resource. And there's another great online video from Dylan Wiliam who actually talks about what it means to give effective feedback.